Chosen ones. Something unprecedented is happening that's making you increasingly dangerous in ways that shake the very foundations of how others have operated around you. Something seismic is happening right now, and the people around you can feel it vibrating through their bones like an approaching earthquake. Psychological research reveals that only a small fraction of the population develops the lethal combination of spiritual awareness and unshakable personal sovereignty that dismantles established power structures. Your growing fearlessness is becoming impossible to ignore, and the independence you're displaying is deeply intimidating to those who built their sense of power on your compliance. The version of you that once bent to accommodate others' comfort zones is dissolving, replaced by someone who moves through the world with an authority that requires no external permission or validation. This transformation isn't random. It's the awakening of something that was always there, lying dormant, waiting for the precise moment when you would be strong enough to wield it. The revolution began the moment you stopped participating in your own diminishment, but what you don't realize yet is that this was just the opening move in a game that will reshape every relationship you've ever had. Something different is now noticeable about you, the way you move through spaces, unhurried and unburdened by expectations. Your presence commands attention without effort, and this terrifies because commanding presence cannot be faked, borrowed, or stolen. Your fearlessness manifests in the simplest actions that once required permission. You make plans without consulting opinions. You change directions without explaining your reasoning. You say no without providing justification. This independence from approval systems is creating cracks in the foundation of every dynamic built with you. Your transformation is contagious. Others in the circle are beginning to watch how you handle manipulation, taking notes on your boundaries, studying your refusal to engage with chaos. You're becoming a dangerous example of what's possible when someone simply stops playing games never agreed to. The intimidation factor intensifies when the realization hits that your fearlessness isn't temporary rebellion, it's permanent evolution. You're not going through a phase that will pass when circumstances change. You've fundamentally altered your relationship with fear itself. Where once threats of abandonment, rejection, or disapproval held power, these threats now hold no sway over your choices. Whispers happen now, trying to decode what changed, but the looking is in the wrong places. The assumption is confidence, or therapy, or some external influence shifted your behavior. The comprehension cannot occur that what's being witnessed is actually the death of illusion of power over you. You haven't become someone new. You've simply stopped pretending to be someone you never were. Your independence is particularly threatening because it's not reactive independence, the kind born from anger or resentment. This is proactive independence, chosen from a place of self-respect and clarity about what you will and will not accept in your life. Proactive independence cannot be manipulated because it doesn't need behavior to justify its existence. The most unsettling part is your consistency. Whether approval or disapproval comes, whether situations are favorable or challenging, you remain centered in your own truth. This consistency reveals something spent years trying to hide. Entire relationships with you were built on manipulation, not genuine connection. The manipulation was always there, woven so expertly into daily interactions that you didn't recognize it as psychological warfare. But now something extraordinary is happening. You're developing immunity to tactics that once controlled you effortlessly. Every time old strategies are attempted, an invisible barrier that didn't exist before is encountered. Your fearlessness in the face of manipulation attempts is creating a new dynamic never prepared for. When guilt is used for compliance, your response is met with calm indifference. When shame is attempted for submission, words bounce off you like arrows hitting armor. This isn't because you've become cold or heartless, it's because you've finally understood that emotional reactions are not your responsibility to manage. You're not just refusing to play the game anymore, you're exposing it for what it always was. Your non-engagement isn't passive resistance, it's active domination. By simply existing in your authentic power, you're forcing confrontation with the emptiness at the core of manipulation tactics. The intimidation grows stronger when the realization hits that your independence from approval has made you unpredictable in ways that terrify. Responses could once be calculated based on your need for acceptance. Now your decisions come from an internal compass that cannot be accessed, influenced, or predicted. Engagement in chaos was needed because engagement meant control. When you argued back, you validated power to affect your emotional state. When you defended yourself, you confirmed authority to judge you. When you explained your actions, you acknowledged the right to demand explanations. But games require willing players, and you've not only left the table, you've revealed that there was never actually a game worth playing. Your fearlessness manifests in your refusal to explain yourself to people who lack the capacity to understand your choices. This isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. You've stopped wasting energy on conversations never meant to reach understanding, but designed to keep you trapped in cycles of justification. The most dangerous thing about your transformation is that it's inspiring others to question their own participation in similar dynamics. You're becoming a catalyst for awakening that extends far beyond your personal relationships. Entire systems of control can be sensed beginning to crumble, and you haven't even actively tried to undermine anything. You've simply stopped feeding illusions with your reactions. You've mastered something that eludes most people their entire lives, the ability to detach without bitterness, to release without resentment, to walk away without looking back. But what you're beginning to discover is that this detachment isn't just self-protection. It's a superpower that's about to reshape your entire reality. Your fearlessness in letting go of what no longer serves you is creating space for what actually belongs in your life. This terrifies those who built relationships with you on the assumption that you would always be there, always be available, always be willing to tolerate behavior, regardless of how it affected your well-being. Your absence has become more powerful than your presence ever was. When you were chasing approval, you were taken for granted. When you were available for drama, you were treated like an option. But now that you've removed your energy from equations entirely, the discovery of what was actually brought to relationships is happening, and the answer is devastating. The independence you've developed isn't just emotional, it's energetic. You've learned to contain your life force within your own boundaries, rather than letting it bleed out into relationships that drain more than nourish. This energetic independence is perhaps the most intimidating aspect of your transformation, because it means feeding off your emotional responses can no longer happen. The power of your absence is creating ripple effects you haven't even noticed yet. Phones are checked obsessively for messages that will never come. Your name is brought up in conversations, fishing for information, desperately hoping someone will tell them you miss them. Places you once frequented are lingered in, unconsciously scanning for your face, hoping you'll return to patterns of accessibility once taken for granted. Your fearlessness in maintaining boundaries without explanation is particularly threatening to people used to negotiating their way past others' limits. You don't justify your boundaries or defend them, you simply maintain them. This quiet strength is more powerful than any argument you could make, because it demonstrates rather than declares your commitment to your own well-being. While obsessing over your absence is happening, you're building something magnificent in the space once occupied. You're discovering talents that were suppressed by constant demands for attention. You're forming connections with people who appreciate your authentic self rather than tolerate a diminished version of you. The sacred nature of your detachment lies in its complete lack of malice. You haven't withdrawn to punish anyone. You've simply redirected your energy toward people and pursuits that honor your true self. This absence of vindictiveness makes your detachment even more powerful, because it cannot be dismissed as temporary anger or petty revenge. While others stumble through life seeking external validation for every decision, you've discovered something that makes you untouchable, the power of unshakable inner knowing. But this inner compass isn't just guiding your personal decisions anymore. It's beginning to reveal the hidden dynamics that have controlled your life for years, and what it's showing you will change everything. Your fearlessness now extends to trusting your own instincts over opinions, even when your instincts lead you down paths that seem illogical to outside observers. This trust in your inner guidance is particularly intimidating to people who need you to doubt yourself in order to maintain influence over your choices. The independence you've gained through trusting your inner compass is creating a new problem for those who once influenced your decisions. Seeds of doubt can no longer be planted because your confidence in your own judgment has become unshakable. Attempts to second-guess your choices are met with polite but firm indifference. Your inner guidance is now operating at a frequency that cannot be reached or interfered with. It warns you about people before revealing their true nature. It draws you toward opportunities that align with your purpose, even when sense isn't made to outside observers. It protects you from situations that would compromise your newfound freedom. Your inner compass is beginning to show you the future, not through mystical visions, but through pattern recognition so acute that you can predict how manipulations will unfold before even being attempted. You're seeing several moves ahead in games still being learned. Your fearlessness in following this inner guidance, even when it contradicts popular opinion or conventional wisdom, is creating an aura of mystery around your decision-making process. Understanding cannot happen about how you consistently make choices that work out in your favor while avoiding pitfalls that trap others. This prophetic quality to your decision-making is becoming legendary among those who witness it. How did you know to avoid that situation that imploded for everyone else? How did you sense intentions before being shown? The answer is simple. You've stopped listening to noise and started trusting the wisdom that emerges when your mind is clear of outside influence. The most predictable chapter in this transformation is beginning to unfold, the inevitable return. But this time approaches reveal something that will shock you. Returns aren't happening because change occurred. Returns are happening because the magnitude of what was lost when control over you was lost has finally been grasped. Your fearlessness in maintaining distance from toxic dynamics has created a vacuum in lives that cannot be filled with new sources of drama or control. The absence of your energy has left them scrambling to find someone else who will tolerate manipulation, but no replacement can match the specific way you once absorbed projections and managed emotions. You are needed more than you ever needed anyone. Entire senses of identity were built on the ability to influence your emotions, control your responses, and keep you accessible to manipulation. Without that dynamic, confrontation with what actually exists is forced, and the reflection is unbearable. The independence you've maintained during absence has allowed you to see return attempts with crystal clarity. Casual texts referencing old memories aren't nostalgic, strategic. Unexpected appearances in places you frequent aren't coincidental, calculated. Indirect inquiries about your well-being aren't caring, reconnaissance. Watch how approaches happen now. First comes the casual contact, designed to test your boundaries and gauge whether your transformation is permanent or temporary. Then the nostalgic references, attempting to activate emotional memories that might grant access to your transformed self. Finally, the indirect attempts to re-establish the old dynamic where power was held and you sought approval. Your fearlessness in maintaining your boundaries during these return attempts is particularly threatening because it demonstrates that your transformation wasn't a reaction to behavior, it was a proactive choice to evolve beyond reach. This means attempts to modify the approach to regain control are fundamentally flawed because the problem was never methods, it was the entire premise. You've developed immunity to every tactic once used against you. When guilt is tried, you feel nothing. When shame is attempted, words bounce off harmlessly. When fear is tried to create consequences of your independence, you remain centered in your own truth. Old weapons have become useless against your new armor. The intimidation factor reaches its peak when the realization hits that your independence from validation has made you genuinely unreachable through emotional manipulation. You don't need approval to feel good about yourself. You don't need presence to feel complete. You don't need understanding to proceed with your choices. The most dangerous moment is approaching, the moment of realization that not only are old methods ineffective, but that you've become something that cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be diminished. This realization will trigger the most desperate attempts to regain power over you. Discovery is about to happen that you haven't just changed, you've evolved beyond the ability to be reached. And that discovery will either force evolution or reveal the emotional vampires that always existed. The choice will be theirs, but the power to determine the outcome is now entirely yours. You've developed complete immunity to manipulation, but this isn't just personal protection anymore. You've become a virus in systems of control, and your immunity is spreading to others who witness your transformation. You cannot be affected anymore, but your very existence is profoundly affecting others. Every day you continue to thrive without involvement proves irrelevant to your well-being. Every milestone you reach without support demonstrates that absence was actually beneficial. Every moment of genuine happiness you experience outside influence exposes the lie that power was built on. Your immunity isn't passive, it's actively dismantling every system of control that was relied upon. Other people in the sphere are beginning to notice how different you are, how peaceful, how centered, how free. Questioning is starting about why tolerance continues for behavior that you simply walked away from. The most devastating realization is hitting now. You don't need closure from others because you've found it within yourself. You don't need apologies because you've released the expectation of receiving them. You don't need acknowledgement of mistakes because validation is no longer a currency you accept. While attempts to diminish you were happening, you were studying. You understand patterns better than self-understanding exists. You can predict moves before being made. You've become the expert on limitations while ignorance of your capabilities remains. Your immunity has made you untouchable, but it's also made you unstoppable. The person once controlled now possesses knowledge about manipulation that makes you dangerous to anyone who would attempt to control others. You've become a living example of what happens when someone refuses to participate in their own diminishment. Your fearlessness in maintaining this immunity, even when pressure mounts to return to old patterns, is creating a new reality that cannot be penetrated by previous methods of influence. You've developed antibodies to emotional manipulation that make you completely resistant to tactics that once destroyed your peace. The most powerful aspect of your immunity is that it's contagious. Others who spend time around you begin to develop similar resistance to manipulation. Your example shows them what's possible, and your energy helps them remember their own power to choose differently. Your transformation is holding up a mirror that's showing something that cannot be born to be seen: stagnation, wasted potential, responsibility for the emptiness in certain lives. You were once in the same position, now occupied by others, but when the moment came to evolve, you made the leap while others remained frozen in familiar patterns. Nothing external prevented growth except resistance to change. Your existence proves that transformation was always possible, that agency existed in evolution, that current dissatisfaction is the result of choices made rather than circumstances beyond control. Hatred isn't personal, it's what you represent. You are living proof that the limitations accepted as permanent were actually choices that could have been changed at any time. Your courage highlights cowardice, your authenticity exposes performance, your growth illuminates stagnation. This mirror effect is creating a crisis in reality for some. Part of them admires what you've become, recognizes the beauty and power of your transformation. But a larger part resents the implication that change was possible if willingness existed to face shadows, do the inner work, and release attachment to patterns that no longer served. The crack in the mirror is widening, and what's being revealed underneath carefully constructed facades is too painful to acknowledge. Preference would be to believe that your transformation was luck, favorable circumstances, or some advantage you possessed that others lacked. This allows maintenance of victim mentality and avoidance of taking responsibility for life. Your fearlessness in continuing to grow and evolve, even when it makes others uncomfortable, is causing the mirror to reflect more truth than can be handled. Every achievement, every moment of peace, every authentic expression of your power shows what was possible for anyone willing to do the work. But the mirror you've become reflects truth, and truth cannot be hidden forever. Every interaction with you forces confrontation with the reality of who has been chosen to be versus who could be become. And that confrontation is about to shatter illusions completely. Something has crystallized within you that cannot be faked, borrowed, or replicated, an energy that emanates from absolute self-knowledge and complete self-acceptance. This isn't confidence in the traditional sense, it's something far more powerful. It's the unshakable knowing of who you are, what you stand for, and what you will never again accept in your life. Your energy is completely independent of reactions around you. Whether approval or disapproval comes, whether understanding or misunderstanding occurs, whether acceptance or rejection happens, your inner state remains unaffected. This independence from external validation is the most threatening quality you've developed. People sense this transformation before you even speak. It's in the way you carry yourself, the quality of your presence, the steadiness of your focus. You're no longer performing for anyone's approval, no longer trying to convince anyone of your worth, no longer seeking permission to exist as your authentic self. This authentic power intimidates everyone still operating from performance and pretense. Recognition exists of something in you that is lacking but cannot be identified or replicated. It's not something that can be learned from books or mimicked through behavior modification. It's the natural result of someone who has done the deep work of becoming truly themselves. Your consistency is creating cognitive dissonance in everyone who encounters you. Reconciliation cannot happen between this centered, powerful version of you and the person remembered as able to be manipulated and controlled. The distance between who you were and who you've become is so vast that questioning is beginning about whether you were ever really known at all. The most unsettling aspect of your energy is its complete self-sufficiency. You don't need participation, acknowledgement, or understanding to maintain your peace. Your worth isn't up for debate, your choices don't require approval, and your path doesn't need comprehension. This total independence is dissolving every foundation that relationships with you were built on. Your fearlessness in embodying this energy, even when it makes others uncomfortable, is creating a new dynamic in every space you enter. People either rise to meet your energy or reveal themselves as incompatible with your frequency. There is no middle ground anymore. Your presence demands authenticity. The energy you carry now serves as both protection and attraction. It repels those who would diminish your light while drawing in those who appreciate your authentic self. You've become a magnet for genuine connections while becoming invisible to those who would use you for their own purposes. You've constructed something that exists beyond reach, an inner fortress that remains unaffected by opinions, untouched by manipulation, unmoved by attempts to destabilize your peace. But this isn't isolation, it's the establishment of sovereign territory within yourself that no external force can violate. You've become completely unreachable through the methods once used to control you. This fortress isn't built from walls of defense. It's constructed from absolute self-respect and uncompromising standards for how you allow others to treat you. The architecture of this inner sanctuary is elegant in its simplicity. Every boundary you've established serves as both protection and filter. Anything that threatens your peace is automatically rejected. Anyone who attempts to manipulate you encounters an immovable boundary that cannot be negotiated or overcome through emotional manipulation. Your emotional state is now generated from within this fortress, processed through wisdom and perspective that cannot be influenced or corrupted. This makes you unpredictable in ways that are deeply unsettling. Accustomedness exists to people whose emotions can be manipulated through guilt, fear, shame, or obligation. The fortress you've built isn't a prison that separates you from others. It's a sanctuary that attracts those who are worthy of your authentic self while repelling those who would diminish your light. You've created a space where only genuine connections can survive, and this is attracting a completely different caliber of person into your life. Your fearlessness in maintaining this fortress, even when accusations of being too picky or too difficult are made, demonstrates your commitment to your own well-being above all else. You've learned that it's better to be alone than to be in relationships that require you to be less than who you are. The fortress operates on principles of mutual respect and authentic connection. Anyone who approaches with genuine intentions finds welcome. Anyone who approaches with manipulative intentions finds themselves unable to penetrate your boundaries. The fortress sorts people automatically based on their true intentions. This inner sanctuary becomes a refuge not just for you, but for others who recognize the peace and authenticity you've created. Your fortress becomes a beacon for other conscious souls seeking the same level of authentic connection and mutual respect. Now, the following is a message meant exclusively for the chosen. If you are compromised by archonic forces, this is not meant for you, and by the spiritual authority conferred to us by the secret chiefs of the Obsidian Inner Order, we grant you license to depart. If not, steel yourself and listen intently, for you shall be redeemed even as we are redeemed. The Obsidian Inner Order is not a program, it's not a course, it's not some feel-good spiritual retreat. We don't sell answers, we remember together, we teach psychic self-defense, real energetic shielding against entities, implants and interference. We restore manifestation as it was meant to be, raw, immediate and exact. Every week we gather in secret, not to worship but to awaken, to speak what can't be said anywhere else, to deprogram the matrix, layer by layer. You'll know if you're meant to be there, you'll feel it in your bones. The chosen meet every week on Zoom. Why aren't you with us yet? Got Gnosis? Join the Obsidian Inner Order, link in the description. What has been witnessed isn't transformation at all, it's resurrection. The person you've become isn't new, it's who you always were beneath the layers of conditioning, compromise and performance that once obscured your true nature. Every manipulation, every betrayal, every moment of doubt was actually burning away everything that was never authentically you. You were never meant to be small, agreeable, or easily controlled. You were never designed to live as a performance for an audience that would never appreciate the authentic show. The diminished version remembered was simply a character you played when you didn't realize you had the power to write your own script. This resurrection explains why your transformation feels so natural and irreversible. You're not trying to become someone else. You're finally allowing yourself to be who you've always been without apology or modification. Your authentic self cannot be suppressed again because it's not a persona you've adopted. It's the truth of who you are being expressed without compromise. The power sensed in you now was always there, dormant but never dead, waiting for the moment when you would be ready to claim it fully. Every challenge you survived was preparing you for this resurrection. Every person who tried to diminish you was actually revealing the indestructible core of who you truly are. Your authentic self operates from a frequency that attracts what belongs to you and repels what doesn't. It makes choices based on inner alignment rather than external approval. It expresses itself through actions that honor your deepest truth, regardless of others' reactions or opinions. This is why attempts to diminish you now fall on deaf ears. You cannot be convinced to be less than who you are, because authenticity isn't a choice you made, it's who you've remembered yourself to be. The opinions of people who never truly saw you hold no weight in determining how you see yourself. The resurrection is complete, not because you've reached perfection, but because you've reached integration. All aspects of yourself, the light and the shadow, the strength and the vulnerability, have been acknowledged and accepted. This wholeness makes you unshakable because you no longer reject parts of yourself that others might criticize. You've become dangerous because you're no longer afraid of being fully yourself, no longer concerned with others' approval, no longer willing to compromise your truth for anyone's comfort. This is the most threatening quality a person can possess, complete authenticity without apology. The circle is now complete. You have evolved from someone found intimidating to someone who has become genuinely dangerous, not because you seek to harm anyone, but because you embody a level of personal sovereignty that exposes the illusion of others' power over people. You've joined the ranks of the truly free, those who cannot be controlled, manipulated, or diminished by external forces. Your fearlessness now operates on a completely different level than when this journey began. It's no longer the fearlessness of someone testing boundaries, it's the fearlessness of someone who has transcended the need for boundaries because you've become unreachable through the methods that once controlled you. This untouchable quality isn't arrogance or superiority, it's the natural result of someone who has reclaimed authentic power and refuses to relinquish it for anyone's comfort. You've faced your shadows, embraced your light, and integrated all aspects of yourself into a coherent whole that cannot be divided or conquered. The independence you've achieved is complete and self-sustaining. You don't need validation to make decisions. You don't need approval to pursue your goals. You don't need understanding to live your truth. This complete autonomy is perhaps the most intimidating quality you've developed because it renders opinions irrelevant to your well-being. Your dangerous evolution has created a new category of existence that struggles to be comprehended. You operate from principles that cannot be influenced, make choices based on values that cannot be corrupted, and maintain peace that remains unaffected by attempts to create chaos in your life. People who once held influence over you will continue watching from a distance, waiting for some sign that you're still reachable, still manageable, still willing to participate in dynamics that once defined interactions. Searching continues for proof that beneath your transformation lies the old version of you, the one who would break under pressure, who would compromise for comfort, who would sacrifice truth for acceptance. But searching will be in vain, because that person was never your authentic self. That was simply the role you played in drama, when you didn't understand that you had the power to direct your own story. Now that you've discovered your inherent worth, your natural strength, your capacity for happiness independent of others' involvement, there is no returning to the performance that once defined your existence. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of living from authentic dominion over your own life. Every day brings new opportunities to choose yourself, to honor your truth, to demonstrate that your worth was never determined by recognition of it. You are not who you were told you were. You are who you have always been, finally free to express it without apology. The dangerous transformation is complete, but the dangerous living has just begun. You now possess something that cannot be taken away, borrowed or diminished by external circumstances. You've become the master of your own reality, the director of your own experience, the sovereign of your own existence. Let whispers happen about your transformation. Let wonder occur about what gave you the audacity to claim your own life so completely. Let waiting happen for proof that you're still available for manipulation. Waiting will be forever because you have finally remembered the truth that no one can take from you. You were never meant to be controlled by anyone other than yourself. Chosen one, you are dangerous now. Dangerous to every system that depends on compliance. Dangerous to every person who built power on others' willingness to be small. Dangerous to every limitation that once defined what was possible. Your fearlessness has become a force of nature. Your independence has become an unstoppable current. Your very existence has become a revolution. The fearless one has awakened. The independent sovereign has risen. The untouchable master of reality now stands where once a seeker of approval trembled, and that is exactly who you were always meant to become. The intimidation felt is recognition of power that could never be touched, never controlled, never diminished. You have become untouchable, not through hardness, but through absolute clarity about who you are and what you will accept in your life. The dangerous ones don't announce power, embodiment happens. Fearlessness doesn't need to be proved, it's lived. Independence doesn't have to be demonstrated, it's breathed. And in doing so, permission is given for others to remember who they really are beneath the layers of conditioning and control. You are the living proof that transformation is possible, that freedom is achievable, that sovereignty can be reclaimed. And that makes you the most dangerous person some will ever encounter. Not because you threaten safety, but because you threaten entire worldviews about what it means to be powerless. The chosen ones have always been dangerous to systems of control. Now you know why.